Hey, hey, how are you doing? I'm Wendy, your host, and this is the Stripology podcast. I was just sharing on my story that I don't feel like recording tonight, but you got to do it. You got to do it anyway. And I was saying, that's something that stripping really taught me was that little push showing up. It takes me back to the episode, if you recently listened to the one about winter and how it's like, you know, letting yourself off the hook a little bit, but it's a slippery slope. And yeah, so one thing that stripping taught me that I love to bring into my everyday life is so many things, but definitely consistency and all of what that creates, just good patterns, strengthening with your own like promises to yourself, self-trust and yeah, just all of the lessons through that. And also a big part of it is what is making me hesitant, I think, a little bit is because I have recently learned how to upload, wow, upload the podcasts myself, which does take me about 2 hours. And previously I was outsourcing that to my VA, which is great, but I've wanted to learn how to do it for so long, and now I'm doing it. But then I'm like, it's like not just the recording, it's what comes after that. But I really want to get completely competent with that. And that just takes, repetition. That's how we learn. And so, even though there's more resistance, it's like, no, that's the indication that I need to do it even more because that resistance is only going to dissolve the more that I do it, right? So just like anything. So this episode as well, a big factor of like why I was like, just shut up and do it because it's going to be annoying not to do it, is there's a topic I really want to talk about. And this is a topic that's come up. I've had a lot of coaching calls this week. And one thing that I know about myself is like my brain can get a little bit overloaded. When I show up for my coaching, I fully show up and I'm super present, and it does take a lot of brain power. So, with each thing that I do like this, so yeah, it's like, okay, that battery is a little bit run down, but at the same time, there's always more in the tank, and focusing on why I want to do it is what gets me over the line. If I focused on all the reasons why I don't want to, that would start to look more and more tempting. So it's like, okay, let's build the case towards doing it. And this topic about being stuck in a rut is so fascinating to me, and it's come up a few times this week. So in the coaching calls this week, there's been an interesting like variety of topics. And on two separate days, I've had two times where there's been two calls where there's been one client that is just flying and really celebrating massive, massive wins. One, for example, she's doing incredibly. She's created an amazing customer recently who is coming back a lot, and her weekly average has gone up the last 2 weeks, quadruple. So hitting quite insane numbers. She's quite new to dancing, which makes it all the more exciting. So really working on like grounding down, and really, allowing that to be a part of reality for her, even though she's not used to it. That's one of the beautiful things of this industry is some fucking phenomenal situations can happen where someone just decides that they want to spoil the shit out of you. And it's like, it's two things at once. It's kind of like celebrating that and being like, wow, pinch me. And then at the same time, fears can come up around like, oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't end. Like, almost like, where's the camera? Is this a practical joke? When, when's the clown going to come out kind of thing. And yeah, so holding that, and then also on the same days, having clients that are in a rut, in a rut. And one of my favorite things to coach on. I mean, there's just so many. It's wild, pretty much everything. But this is something I'm really passionate about, is working with people that are in a rut and getting them to flip back out of it. Now, there's certain hallmarks with a rut, and it kind of all goes hand in hand. You can almost predict the things that are happening if someone's in a bit of a rut. And so I'm going to talk about that. I really want to talk about the nature of being in a rut, getting yourself back out of it. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it is in my career, I have been in so many ruts. Something that has been the biggest challenge for me, like I have shared before a lot about, is self-confidence and I guess deep down, like a lot of insecurities I've done a lot of work on, but, through the course of my career, it's been pretty challenging, and it's been something that I've had to actively work on, even when things feel good, to maintain staying in a good, strong state of mind. Because of course at work, that is your best bet in doing well. There's nothing fancy or amazing about the way that I work or the way that anyone works that does really well. You know, it's all of these ingredients pieced together. And so for me, that's why I'm so passionate about just basically the black and white, the difference of day and night between being in a rut and showing up as your best self and creating those fantastic situations that we can create. There's so much opportunity around us in this industry, particularly if you're showing up a lot. It's hard to show up a lot when you feel like you're in a rut. And that's one of the hallmarks. So, where do I want to go with this? There's just like 10 thoughts at once. Okay. So I just want to quickly go back to mentioning, I've been in so many ruts, and I've been in ruts that can last 20 minutes. I've been in ruts that can last entire nights in a row. And I've had some ruts that have lasted weeks and have felt like shit and have felt like I've just completely forgotten how to strip, how to hustle, how to make money, how to feel confident, how to believe in myself, just out the window, like the rug has been pulled out. I have had that for weeks on end in certain periods, but I've managed to get myself back out. And that's available to anyone that is in a rut or has been in a rut. And I just want to put that out there because, like I mentioned, it's very black and white. Sometimes when you're in a rut, literally to the extent of where you're like, I need to get a day job. Like, I suck at this. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is embarrassing. I don't know how to talk to people. I'm a piece of shit. Like, whatever thoughts are coming to you, it's pretty uncomfortable. And obviously there's different degrees of ruts. It's like, oh, I'm just not feeling motivated, or there's like, you are giving yourself hell, and it's hard. And that's the level of rut. I've experienced all the different levels of ruts, but that is definitely something I've definitely experienced many times in my career. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it feels like shit. And I'm passionate about, supporting people where I can to not feel that way, because what's on the other side is, back to feeling yourself again. It just feels so nice to get out of that headspace. Now, I've shared before, a little bit about my, I guess, mental health. And, I've seen a psychoanalytic psychotherapist for 12 years now. It's been very ongoing. And it's really, really helped a lot. It's given me a lot of tools, a lot of insight, a lot of being able to trace back, say, for example, like a trigger, what like vulnerable spot, what soft spot, what trigger is that particular stimulus touching? What is it reminding me of? What is it taking me back to? Why are there really strong stories that show up and feel really, really hard to work through and, really dark? And being diagnosed with, well, it's a bit, I don't know, it's sort of confusing to be honest at the moment. But anyway, like say borderline personality traits or there's like an umbrella sort of unstable personality. Emotions can be quite large and unpredictable and overtake me. Now, like I said, I've done a lot of work and it's so much better than it used to be, but it's still something that I need to be very mindful of. And it just makes me feel extra proud around my performance with stripping because yeah, it's like some people would describe, it's like trying to just do the same task as someone else, but with a piano strapped to your back, it's just got that extra layer of difficulty. But there's things, if you are mindful, it doesn't have to be a complete seesaw, And so that's why I'm so passionate about it because, yeah, I know what it feels like for me to slip into those sort of dark periods and just how shit it feels and scary and all the things. And then like, oh, the relief of getting back on track. And not only that, it's like there's a negative and positive feedback loop, whether you're in a rut or whether you're, showing up as your best self, where you're feeling strong and capable and confident and, really on your own team. And so the negative feedback loop with being in a rut is like your income suffers. So it's not just that you're feeling shit, you're also like got the results that are not making you happy. And it's kind of like insult to injury. And so let's talk about now the certain hallmarks of ruts that not only I've experienced personally, but now working with, hundreds and hundreds of people. And yeah, this is something that comes up a lot. So if you're going through it, you're not alone and it's not the be all and end all, even if it feels like it. Okay, so certain hallmarks that tend to all group together if you're in a rut. And look, I'm using the word rut for lack of a better word. So yeah, just meaning like when you're just really not feeling yourself, you're feeling off track, and some hallmarks that tend to happen are clearly mindset. Okay, mindset is huge. Like I said, loud stories, or even if they're just little nudges, but stories that are not helping you and they're not supportive of working really efficiently. So it might look like really being hard on yourself, or it might look like even not even seeing any opportunities in the club. Like, oh, everyone sucks. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, oh, they look like a dickhead. They look like they're not going to spend, and everything's so contracted and just difficult and small. And, so it's like this whole global mindset of negativity, difficulty, sort of victim-y mindset can come up a lot. And then in your actions, it can really come through. I mean, obviously, if you're feeling like that, you're much more likely to be hesitant, wanting to approach someone, but talking yourself out of it, or, just feeling like it's a lot and you just don't have the capacity. So it's like, oh, fuck, just, yeah, however it is for each individual. For me, I'd describe it as like, oh, just like scary. I feel like, yeah, just very insecure where I can't handle right now someone being rude or rejecting me. So I really don't feel like talking to anyone right now, especially trying to sell a dance. So doubt, hesitation, talking yourself out of a dance. Someone might have like, oh, someone I spoke to this week, one of my clients, and she messaged today. So we did our call yesterday and yeah, in a rut, negative mindset, lost a mojo, just not feeling it, all the hallmarks I'll get back to. And then went to work, we worked on it, went to work and was booked in VIP for hours, which is incredible. And it just goes to show how much mindset and all of these hallmarks I'm describing affect the outcomes that you're able to create, right? So talking yourself out of a dance. So she gave an example, this customer she'd been chatting to, he went to get money out of his wallet to give her money for chatting, but she was just so done with the conversation. She actually said, like, I'm just going to go, as he was about to hand her money. So you can really cock block so many situations when you're in this like small capacity rut style thing. And usually it's when you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, like if I just persisted a little bit there, then maybe things would be different or whatever. But you know, hindsight's always easier than when you're in the situation, especially if you're feeling self-doubt. So yeah, a lot of talking yourself out of opportunities to make money. Old fears might come up. So really old fears might surface. So for me, yes, a lot of like childhood fears of feeling unsafe or very intimidated, things like that. These can come up. Also, with your actions, you're probably not going to be persisting. You're probably not going to feel confident enough to be like, yeah, come on, it's going to be fun. You know, just one extra push that sometimes can be enough to get people over the line. You're not feeling it, so it's probably not going to happen. And therefore, your chances are reduced. And it's just such a knock-on effect. And then your confidence gets knocked even more because you're getting more no's and you're making less money and da da da. And then you almost create the situation where you are getting no's because of the way that you're showing up and the words that you're choosing and just all these things. And then it can usually knock into comparison, starting to fixate on other dancers and how they're doing and how well they're doing and how not well you're doing, and bang, snowballs. So the good news is being in a rut actually, it actually says that you don't suck because you know you're in a rut. Because you've got a contrast of how you know you do when you do well, how you know you normally perform. And then if you're in a rut, there's that contrast. See, if you just, it's sorry to say, but if you just kind of like sucked all the time, it wouldn't be a rut. You wouldn't notice. You wouldn't be able to observe the things. It might still have some hallmarks like negative mindset and, you know, doubts and things like that. But I'm talking specifically about being in a rut where you just say, oh, like I've lost my mojo. Yeah, you know the difference. You see the difference. So that's the good news. Like you have your own personal blueprint of what works for you, what's worked in the past. You've got a blueprint of how you feel when you're not in a rut. You have a blueprint of what you tell yourself, like the thoughts in your mind. You have the blueprint of, you know, how it feels to entertain people and be that witty banter, you know, whatever it is, super sexy version of you that just has people like gravitate to you. You have evidence of that. It's just when you're in a rut, like I said, black or white, it's not feeling doubt and also feeling, you know, good. It kind of wipes all of that out of your awareness. And it's very hard to access, but that is the key. It's accessing the version of you that is not in the rut. Because it's a negative feedback loop, it just intensifies. And what needs to happen is that loop needs to be broken. And so that's what's really important. Now, this is, like I said, one of my favorite things that I work on. I mean, amongst many, but you know, this is something that quite often, so many, like countless times I've worked with people and on the topic of a rut, and then managed to basically flip the script. That's what I call it. Like it's literally like a light switch, turning the light on. It isn't just one part of the rut, like, oh, now you're not comparing yourself, or like, oh, now you're not hesitating approaching people. It's a global thing, and it's possible to just bang, flip out of it, because then you're in the knock-on effect of, you know, being the confident version of yourself, where you have the positive feedback loop, where you create good interactions, and then people want to pay you, and then you have more fun, and then you make more money, and then, you know, you're even more magnetic, and then your confidence grows, and then you start, you know, being more bold, and then like you make even more money, and it's this positive feedback loop. And so it's like a global thing. It's very difficult. For example, say you're like in this flowy way, and like you're in this positive feedback loop, you're making good money, and like people are loving you, and you're having so much fun, and that is very likely that you're probably not going to be comparing yourself to someone else. So you're probably not going to be hesitating to approach the next person if you've just come out of like a 4-hour booking in VIP and like had the best time, but yeah, they had to go, no problem. Hey, next person, you know, all of those hallmarks don't tend to happen. So yeah, it all kind of goes hand in hand. So yeah, that's what I love particularly is the result. Like I can see when I do the coaching with someone that's in a rut, just start to remember. It's about remembering. It's about letting go of that negative feedback loop and then remembering your usual way. And you can see the relief, like, oh, fuck. And usually it's just like, I just forgot. It's like, yeah, because it's hard to hold to the two like versions at once. So yes, when one's in place, when it's very strongly in place, it's just near impossible to remember, you know, and that's something I relate to so much is that feeling, that fear of like, oh shit, I've lost it. Oh my God, am I ever going to be able to hustle again? And it's like, yes. So I just want to put that out there. It's like, yes, you can. But yeah, so seeing that relief, and then, yeah, usually on the calls that are specifically about being in a rut, towards the end, is very much like, cool, excited to go back into work, like just feeling yourself again. It's so good. And then, yeah, just so often it's like, oh my God, thank you. Like, you know, I like this message, you know, I got my mojo back. I'm in my A game again, got booked in VIP, like they wanted to keep staying, like just all of that remembering. Another part that I wanted to mention about ruts. So it's like, it's not that you suck at all. It's just you've slipped off a little bit, but you have the contrast. So you have the blueprint of you feeling yourself and being on your A game. You've got that blueprint. So that's the most important thing to remember. And then also something that's important. Where did I write it? But I'll just say this anyway, because I can't quite remember, but this part as well. It's like I mentioned at the start of this episode, for myself, in my experience, like being aware that it's quite easy to you know, doubt myself and just kind of like, you know, with a bit of a trigger, just sort of slip off track and end up in a negative mindset. And it's like weeding a garden. So even, you know, if you have listened, followed me or worked with me or things like that, you know, I'm very big on just working with your brain and how it works, you know, like repetition, visualization, you know, just taking note of all of the details of when you're doing well and practicing that and really reinforcing that. And even for me, like even when I was on, you know, years and years in a row of like being really like working in flow, like amazing, just crazy, you know, mind-blowing kind of situations just so often. So I just kicked my puppy. I didn't kick him, I put my foot near him. Anyway, but knowing I had to still consistently do things, like it's like just pulling the weeds, just little things, but often just to keep the weeds at bay, basically. And the weeds are like the negative thoughts popping up. So little things just to help me support my performance at work. And yeah, like I said, that was like working on my mindset, really revisiting the things that were working for me and helping me. And then physically, you know, just having a lot of things during the week or during the fortnight that I had booked in, like acupuncture or massage, or yeah, just things to maintain feeling good and balanced. Obviously my psyche, and just, you know, so many different things, knowing that I personally need that support, and it really helped to maintain consistency, because sometimes, particularly if we've worked for a long time, it's easy to autopilot and just unawarely like reinforce slightly bad habits or slightly, you know, unproductive things or certain ideas, you know. And for example, another call that I had today, just noticing prejudging the customers. Oh, they're probably not going to spend it. If you notice, this is a little challenge if you want to do it. If you notice yourself telling yourself limiting ideas or stories, it is such a effect, like I can't think of the word right now, but it's such a good thing to really learn to catch yourself with those thoughts. And so, for example, if you're like, oh, that person doesn't look like they're going to spend, that's your cue to go and talk to that person and create a connection and, you know, see what can unfold. Because I'm sure that we've all had experiences where we've written off a customer and gone, they're probably not going to spend. And next minute, like in the call today, she was saying that happened. And he literally then went and booked a different dancer for 5.5 hours, which is okay. But the hesitation, it closed that opportunity and it opened it up for someone else, which is great. Glad he, you know, did a long booking with someone. But it's just, there's so many examples that we would all have in our career, particularly in a long career, if we just slowly close things off and we don't challenge ourselves and go, actually, maybe that's not true. And so, yeah, just like reinforcing little bad habits. So that's something that I personally love to do, is just catching those limitations and then challenging them and being like, you know what, bullshit, I'm going to see if that can, you know, I can create a really cool situation out of something that I almost taught myself out of. It just makes all the difference. It's all compounding. And another thing is as well, if you are in a rut, this is the thing I couldn't remember before, but something else that I find is like sometimes when the rut gets really bad, like say the negative thoughts or whatever, all the hallmarks I was mentioning before, when they're getting really loud, really obvious and quite unbearable, that's usually the sign that it's ready. It's ready to get flipped. Like it's not bearable anymore. And even though that's harder, that's a good thing, because the things are at the surface and it's like enough is enough. It's a really good time to be like, I need to fuck this off. This is not helping me. And, you know, viewing that as your cue to make some change. So like I said, you've got evidence of how you operate when you're not in a rut, starting to focus on that. Break the illusion. It's an illusion being in a rut. It's an illusion. It's all bullshit. Because the thing is, and I have seen too many times, not only with myself, but people I work with, there is too much evidence to not realize that a rut is changeable, like a click of the finger, if you are prepared to do it. I've just seen too many times, instantaneously, same night, completely different results and relief and all of that, which goes to show that, again, it is an illusion. It's not real. It's not the way it is. If you can have one night where you feel like shit and you're struggling to make money and then literally the next night where you're back on your A game and you're making money and you feel confident and all of that, your value didn't change. You didn't become a better person. You didn't become a more deserving person. None of that happened. It was the way that the mindset affected your actions and the way that you felt. That is what shifted. It wasn't anything else. You didn't suddenly get hotter. You didn't suddenly become more desirable for customers. So when you experience a rut and getting out of a rut, the good news is as well, the more times that you're able to pull yourself out, the more you learn how to, and you can do it if it happens. Maybe not everyone experiences this. I certainly did. And I've worked with a lot of people that have, and I know it is a very common thing. And so, yeah, that's why I really, really wanted to do this episode today, even though I didn't really feel like recording. Well, it's more the upload, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just such an important topic, and it just, anything that gives us hope. Because in the strip club, there's just so many things that can go on. And the last thing that we want to do in a rut is then feel hopeless and like it can't be changed, but it really can. And yeah, like I said, even if you're feeling these feelings of like, whatever it is, worthless, fucking no one wants you, why would anyone spend money on you? Like, just so whatever it is that comes up for you personally, they're just a few that like I know I've experienced. How can that be true? When you don't feel like that, you don't get the evidence of that. That's really important to realize. So yeah. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do experience being in a rut, reach out. I've got so many tools that can be helpful. Something I'm very passionate about and work with a lot of people with. And like I said, the good news is if you can get yourself out, you have that blueprint for yourself. And so it's something that, through time, even just a few tweaks, if you do notice you get a bit wobbly and it comes back, you'll know how to hopefully divert getting into a full-blown rut. And yeah, just maintain a strong mindset. That's such a valuable tool in the industry. Anyway, also I want to let you know at this point as well, the Industry Academy next round is coming up in September. So it's going to go from September right up until Christmas. That's where we've got the live calls. You get so much content that you keep for life. It is all circled around how to do well in the club, confidence, mindset, strategies, sales, customer relations, so many things. Have a little read if you're interested. It's going to be amazing. There's people joining already. I can't wait. There's incredible results, more than I can mention. I'm sure you've all probably met someone by now that maybe has experienced it, or if you're curious and you have any questions, reach out and I'm more than happy to answer what you're curious about. So I hope you have a great weekend, have a great week, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye.